KFA Today in New York City. Kevin McCullough in the shadow of the Freedom Tower. So glad to have you with us here in Lower Manhattan. And, man, there's just news all over the place. I want to get to a lot of this. We've got stuff, and we've got a couple of special guests coming in to help us understand some of it as well. Hopefully on the show today, we will have Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin to discuss what I think is one of the most underreported yet most important stories that needs to be addressed and understood by the American people in the last 24 hours, and I've heard almost zero coverage of it. Almost zero coverage of it means the networks are not following it. And so if someone doesn't draw attention to it, well, golly gee, maybe no one will. So we're going to. I'm going to tell you about this story that nobody else really did much discussion on. You just heard, if you were listening on some of these stations just before we got started there, just a little announcement about the Moms Not Out movies. I don't know if this is an organized thing or if it's just a hateful culture that is trying to band together. But there seems to be some sort of mischief afoot with some of the reviewers that have reviewed this movie, and there's fear that they are actually trying to kill this thing. Now, I don't know how many of you saw Mom's Night Out in the last couple of weeks. It's been, shown in different places. It came out last Friday before Mother's Day. But genuinely, a rip-roaring comedy. I mean, a genuinely funny movie. The screening that I was in here in Manhattan, even in jaded Manhattan, the place was roaring with laughter in different parts of it. But I want you to hear what some of the very important media critics in the country have said. Christy Lemire, who writes for RogerEbert.com. Depressingly regressive and borderline dangerous. Mom's Night Out peddles archaic notions of gender roles in the name of wacky laughs. But the ultimate message here is unmistakable regardless of your religious beliefs. A woman's place is in the home, not out on the town. I'm wondering if she even saw the film. Where did she come up with that? The Village Voice. Okay, this is a newspaper in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It is not surprising that they would take this tone on it, but they said, outrageously enough, the moral of Mom's Night Out seems to be that moms should never get a night out. The Mother's Day weekend release is pretty much a PG-rated version of The Hangover, but with an ill-fitting God angle that slowly wedges its way into the movie, an agenda that in retrospect explains the conspicuous lack of booze, drugs, and sex. Because Heather Beja of The Village Voice can't have a movie that doesn't have a lot of booze, drugs, and sex, I guess. I guess that's what the point is. Elizabeth Weitzman, the New York Daily News. Mom's Night Out is really all about moms staying home, where, according to this movie, they apparently belong. The movie lectures, the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. Granted, most moms have two hands, but in this deeply conservative comedy, they better not use one of them to knock back a beer, even though they could probably use it. You know what these, and by the way, all of those reviews written by women, you know what these reviewers are really taking a stab at? They're really poking it in the eye to every mother in America that felt encouraged by this movie. I happen to know that there were about a dozen or so screenings throughout the New York metro area late last week, before Mother's Day. And I know that several churches took groups of women to give them a mom's night out. They got out. They saw the movie. A lot of them went to dinner together. They had a good time. I myself provided childcare so that the lovely bride could go with a group of her friends from church, and they could all enjoy a mom's night out. And they enjoyed the movie. They came back and they laughed, and they said, "Yeah, that was really good. It really made us appreciate what we have." And there's this line that Trace Atkins just delivers, in the voice only Trace Atkins can, when he tells the story about how his mom would put him to bed every night and remind him that Jesus loved him. And I didn't hear one woman coming back home from that movie going, oh my goodness, I'm supposed to turn into cave woman again and just be barefoot and pregnant and have no life. I didn't hear one person, but you read these reviews and it's like they're all in on it. It's like the feminist reviewers of America got together and said, hey, let's just take a huge, outpouring of frustration onto this film. Let's be the angry, uptight, single, lonely women that we are and write these nasty reviews about this film. Well, here's what the concern is from the producers and from some of the people associated with the movie. I got notice of this very early this morning, and then Tim Wildman alerted the AFA people and so forth. There's a concern that there's a targeted effort to try to kill this film in the second week of release. It finished 7th last week at the box office. It opened on only a little over 1,000 screens. That's not bad for a 1,000-screen film. I would strongly encourage you to go see this film this weekend just to say to these people, you're not gonna play this game. You're not gonna play this game. You're not gonna kill this just because you have a different moral system than most of America. Katie Taylor of the Toronto Globe and Mail. Brian Orndorff, a man. What did he say? Let's see. Ugly sexism in what's trying to be a harmless feature, pandering to the female audience with a mean-spirited attitude toward men. I didn't see that at all. And then there's a person, I think it's a person, named Inku King. Inku, I-N-K-O-O, writes for something called The Wrap. Rather than pandering to moms, this unfunny, unabashedly anti-feminist comedy consistently points out how wrong or unnecessary, or I can't take any more of this. There's a whole stack of these, and they've been published in all these different places and they're trying to convince people that you can't see what you see on the screen and be touched by it. And I would say, go see the film for yourself. This is why I don't trust reviewers. Because what reviewers say is a bunch of garbage most of the time. And in this case, they may all be ganging up to try to kill a perfectly delightful film that reinforces really positive messages about the importance of marriage, the importance of family, and the importance of parents. All right. Backing off my my little pedestal for the time being. Okay, so listen, coming up, there's this other story. Fred Jackson sent me an email this morning saying, hey, Kev, you probably want to see this. The Associated Press doing an actual critically thoughtful review of Obamacare, coming up with the conclusion that consumers are losing doctors in the new exchange plans. Now, I know some of you are a little bit, you don't believe this stuff. So I'm going to get one of the foremost authorities on the subject on this show in the next segment, and I want you to hear for himself why this Associated Press story, which has written minimally critical, if anything critical, about the Affordable Care Act at all, why it's true. Why consumers are losing doctors with the exchange plans. Because there's a mathematical reason why that's the case. It's not just some partisan thing, not just Republicans just hate Obamacare, so they're just trying to kill it. That's not it. Some of the people, including my guest next segment, Jake Veely of the National Integrative Health Initiative, they have been saying this since before Obamacare got passed, that these were going to be some of the outcomes. Not only that, the Heritage Foundation has published a piece of 9 predictions about the legislation that have all come true. So, anyway, we'll have that. And then I'm hoping that Jerry Boykin will be with us in the final portion of the broadcast today because of this story. It came out yesterday. It should have been front page news. It should have been the lead at every 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 Central, 6 Western, Pacific, Mountain, whatever, however many other time zones there are. And then again at 11, 10, and whatever the weird times they are. O'Reilly should have been talking about it. It should have been the top of headline news, CNN, whatever. I don't think MSNBC would have covered, but that doesn't surprise me. But there are 2 former administration officials that actually have some knowledge of what happened the night of 9/11, 2012, the night of the Benghazi attack, that have come forward and have said it is a tremendous mistake for the Democrats to avoid being on the select committee. Now, I did something unusual in talk radio this last week. I asked the listeners, I asked you what you thought about the select committee. I said I'm going to give preference to Democrats because that's the party that's having the debate over whether they should be on the committee or not. And we took nothing but Democrats the entire hour. I was going to give you preference, but we packed our phone lines with them. We didn't come up with one person in the course of that entire broadcast that was a Democrat that said the Democrats should boycott or avoid the committee. Every person we had on this show, and if you don't believe me, go back and listen. But every person that made it on the show said no, the Democrats should participate in the committee, and most of them said they should follow where the evidence leads and come to the conclusion based on the evidence. I wrote about that this weekend in my syndicated piece. It's at several different places on the web. You can look it up for yourself. But here's the issue. Yesterday, Leon Panetta, former defense secretary, and a former deputy secretary, CIA deputy director, rather, Michael Morell, both of them appointed by Obama. Both of them, Morell served at the CIA. Leon Panetta had served at the CIA, and then he served at the Department of Defense. And on 9/11/2012, Leon Panetta, at the Pentagon, was asked almost seconds after the attack began, is this a spontaneous or is this a terrorist action? And they said, there's no doubt about this. They're looking at the birds in the sky that look down and they zone in. That's a terrorist act. They've got mortars there. This is a coordinated attack. He calls the president and says, I need to come see you. 15 minutes after the attack started, he's telling the president, this is a terrorist action. And everything that the president did from that point forward was to diffuse, divert, disguise, and deceive the American people, including coaching Dr. Susan Rice to go on the news channels on the following Sunday and to tell the American people a flat-out blatant falsehood that it was a spontaneous reaction to this dumb YouTube video that nobody saw. So when Leon Panetta, who said that it was a terrorist act 15 minutes into the attack, says the Democrats should participate in this committee and that this committee is a good thing and that this committee should be unified and actually doing the work of the American people, when they are former Obama administration officials saying that, doggone it, it better happen. Because you know what this looks like? If you've got Obama administration officials saying, no, the committee should take place, they should get to the bottom of this and it should be a unified effort. And then you've got Capitol Hill and the White House and everybody stalling and hemming and hawing. Oh, we're not going to participate. Oh, it'll just be jaded. It just looks like you're just covering something up. That's what it looks like. So the fact that Leon Panetta, the defense secretary, the night of the attack, said yesterday, this committee should take place, this committee should happen, and people should participate in it to get to a unified conclusion on the basis of what, on the basic facts of what happened. Friends, that's important. We're going to ask if he can be with us. We're working on trying to get Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin with us in the final portion of the broadcast today. Anyway, I told you it was a big, heavy news day. We'll take your calls, 888-589-8840. Coming back with Jake Veely of the National Integrative Health Initiative, and then following that, hopefully Lieutenant General, retired General Jerry Boykin join us. Kevin McCullough, AFA Today, AFR Talk, a Power Pack show. Stay with us.